Folks, can you ask you to everybody to please sit down? We're just about to get started. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
It's a bit cold outside, I know, but we can get a little bit warmer in here. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
We start a new month. Cold as the last month. And it is so good to see you all here this morning. New month is a new theme. We all know how important the gospel is to Spiritists, to the things we do, to the things that we would like to be, the lessons that we have. So it is really a joy that this month we have chosen Jesus' parables as our theme. So for every Sunday, we're going to be talking about different parables, starting today with Marcio, who's going to present us an introduction to the parables. I'd like to invite our brother Marco to come here and give us an opening reading and an opening prayer to get us started. Thank you, everyone.
Our initial reading today is from the book Our Daily Bread from Chico Xavier and Emmanuel. And the lesson is lesson 76, The Witnesses, from the Epistle of Paul to the Hebrews, chapter 12, verse 1. Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders. This concept of Paul of Tarsus should be given special consideration by the student of gospel. Each human existence is always an important day of struggle, a generous step toward the infinite ascension. And with every position taken, the individual should be always surrounded by an enormous legion of witnesses. We are not only referring to those that form part of our own family circles, but also, above all, the friends and benefactors of each individual who observe him in the many different angles of life, from the higher spheres of the superior spirituality. All over the world, the disciple is surrounded by large clouds of spiritual witnesses that follow his every step, taking note of his attitudes. We were just talking about this a few minutes earlier. Because no one accomplishes the terrestrial experience by chance without solid reasons based on love or justice. Prior to reincarnation, generous spirits endorsed the pleadings of the repentant soul. Judges acted upon the corresponding processes. Friends interceded in the service of assistance, contributing to the organization of the particulars required of the redeeming struggle. Those brothers and educators thereby become permanent witnesses of the pupil. During the length of time the new task is in progress, they speak to him without words in the innermost reaches of his conscience. Parents and children, husbands and wives, brothers and blood relatives of the world are protagonists in the evolutionary drama. The watchful observers generally remain in the other side of life. Do as much as good as possible toward your associates in the struggle on this day, and do not forget those who accompany you in spirit, truly preoccupied and lovingly. And with that, I invite all of those present here and also watching us through the internet to close our eyes. And with all our hearts filled with gratitude, elevate our thoughts to God, our Creator, Jesus, our Master, and all the benefactors, spirits present with us, our guardian angels. We would like to thank all of them for the opportunities, for the blessings, for the protection we receive every single day. Thank you for the inspiration guiding us in this day to this lecture, to these very moments that we are going to invest together to learn a bit more about the gospel of Christ. We one more time would like to thank Jesus, our Master, for all the examples He gave to us, for all the teachings marked in our hearts and consciences. We also would like to ask the blessings of the spiritual world to our brothers and sisters who are not able to join us tonight, to those who remain at home and couldn't join us, and to our children who are also studying and learning about the gospel in the TSS for kids at this very moment. Dear brothers and sisters, we ask the support, inspiration and guidance to our brother Marcio Lee, who is responsible for the lecture, for the study this morning. May we all have the protection to our meeting, and our hearts and our minds get filled with the blessings and the light of the above. Thank you, and so be it. With that, I'll leave you with our friend Marcio Lee, Jesus in the Home.
All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming. The lecture that I'm going to do today is based on this book, Jesus in the Home. And there is a lot of stories here with Jesus, a lot of parables here. I choose 4 of them to go through it. But before I start with that, let me, because it's the first lecture around this topic, I thought it would be good to bring what parables means, right? And just to set the scene for the entire month. And so parables mean, the word parable comes from the Greek parabole, I think. So parabole, meaning comparison, illustration, and analogy. So it's a way to tell a story, to give a new teaching through an example or something that is more illustrative than just going directly to the topic, right? So it was the name given by Greek to illustration in the form of a brief fictional narrative. So we see even today, right, people using those that way to teach others, and especially for kids. I think it's an easy way to explain a kid something, right? They understand and they get engaged to that, trying to understand the story, and at the end you give the teaching that you want to through the example of the parable, right? So the main question was why Jesus used parables to teach us 2,000 years ago, right? And he came to earth, a very elevated spirit, the one who he was the most elevated one that always went to ever have come to earth, and he came here to teach us the way back to our real home, right? The spiritual world, because we are here temporarily. It's like a school. We go to school, we spend hours there during our day, and then we go back home, or like our work. We spend hours there, but we go back to our homes, right? So here is just a time that we came to earth, and then we need to go back to our real home. That is the spiritual world. So Jesus used the parables for the same meaning that I mentioned about the kids, to engage people to understand those stories, and get their curiosity, and then they keep listening to him until the end of the story and get the sense of what he was trying to say, right? And Jesus says in Matthew, I speak to them parable, because seeing they do not see, and hearing they do not hear nor understand. So this is a part of the gospel in Matthew, that the disciples was asking Jesus, why do you talk to them in parables? And because for the disciples, he could speak more openly, right? So why Jesus was speaking in parables? And Jesus continues saying, because the hearts of these people have been deadened, their ears have become deaf, and they have shut their eyes tight, lest their eyes see, their ear hear, their hearts understand, and being converted, I may heal them. So, with that context, Jesus was trying to first touch our hearts, right? I say us, our hearts, because understanding the evolution of incarnation, maybe some of us was there, right? Listen to Jesus' words and try to understand those lessons. So, at that time, we were not ready to understand very clearly everything that Jesus could teach us at that time. And even today, right? If we read the Spirit's book, have some questions there that the Spirit's answer saying you're not ready to understand that yet, right? So if at that time, 2,000 years ago, if today we're not ready to understand a lot of things, imagine 2,000 years ago, right? That we need to evolve a lot of things. We need to learn a lot of things. So there is one thing that the Spiritists bring to us in the gospel, according to Spiritists, that Jesus made charity and humility towards one's neighbors the express condition for salvation. Everything he said in this regard is perfectly clear, explicit, and ambiguous, right? So it was those parts that we need to learn that time was very, very clear. Jesus was talking openly about that. He doesn't need to put any parables around that. What we have some things that's not that clear is when we're talking about the spiritual world or something like mediumship, those things that we came and we learn a little bit more with the with Spiritism, right? So it's not we had to learn at that time was this: charity and humility. Have you learned already? Well, we're trying, right? We're still on the path to learn all of those, but that was made very, very clear from Jesus. And so what is the difference between what Jesus brings to us and the Spiritism is bringing to us 2,000 years later? So the Spiritism has come to shed light on the multitude of obscure points. So as I was saying, there is a lot of things that we can take from Jesus' parables that it doesn't seem that clear until the moment that we learn from Spiritism, right? I was talking about mediumship. Mediumship was something very, very common at that time. All the prophets before Jesus, when they said that they talk to God, they probably talk with some a spirit and a spiritual word, giving them some guidance, right? All the dreams that they have with angels and the conversation that a lot of prophets have with, not prophets, but Mary, Mary or Joseph had to understand that Jesus was coming. That was kind of mediumship, right? It's what a communication of the spiritual world, and that is mediumship. So, this the spiritism, it just brings us a little bit more clarity on these other things that we're not ready at that time. So that's a little bit about parables, why we have that at that time, and what the Spiritism is trying to bring to us to understand. And let's start to get to this book. I have an assistant to help me to read some of them. So I'll ask Jacques to read the first one for us. Thank you, my friend.
The Tools of Perfection. That night, Simon Peter joined the conversation with the Spirit, vexed with great discouragement. He had been offended by insensitivity, ill-mannered relatives. An elderly uncle had accused him of wasting family assets, and a cousin had threatened to box his ears neither on the street. So he was wearing a burned and ulcer face. After the master read a few lines from the sacred reading, the fisherman opened up. He described the conflict with his kin, while Jesus listened in silence. When he had finished his lengthy, earnest report, the Lord asked him, "Why did you, Simon, in response to your inconsiderate relative, always laugh?" "Well, of course, I react like I should have," the disciple answered vehemently. "I put them both in their proper place. I didn't hold back in pointing out their bad qualities. My uncle is a rare example of stinginess, and my cousin is a consummate liar. In front of a large crowd, I showed that both were hypocrites, and I'm not at all sorry for it." The master thought of several moments and then began to speak compassionately. "Peter, what does a carpenter do when he is building a house?" "Well, of course, he works hard on it," Peter answered impatiently. "How?" replied the heavenly friend with a smile. "With tools." After Simon's terse response, Christ continued, "The individual we are born and live with a while on the earth are the first and most important tools that we have received from the Father for building the kingdom of God with us. They are elements for our spiritual growth, and if we fail to take advantage of them, it is nearly always impossible to be victorious by using other means, because a Father has bestowed life's problem on us according to our ability to solve them. The bird has built a nest, but nothing else is expected of it. The sheep provide wool to the shepherd, but no one expects a ready-made coat from it. People have been granted tasks such as those entailing love and humility as they work intelligently and constantly for the common good, so that peace and happiness may not be only myths. Our close family members are most often the hammer or saw we can use in building the living and sublime temple by which heaven will manifest in our soul. While the mason uses his tools on the outside, it is up to us to use our on the inside. On every occasion, unlearned person represent for us an arena of spiritual merit. The bad person is a challenger that put our goodness to the test. The ungrateful person, it is a way for us to practice forgiveness. The sick person is a lesson in our ability to lend aid. Those who believe rightly in the Father's name with respect to difficult or indifferent family member are quickly preparing themselves for the glory of serving humankind, because patience, perfect life, and time changes everything. Jesus finished, and perhaps because Peter's eyes still had a busy look, he added serenely, "If we do not help the needy person who is right there beside us, how can we help afflicted person who are far away? If we do not love the brother and sister who breathes the same air with us, how can we devote ourselves to the Father in heaven?" In light of these questions, no one dared break the expressive silence that hung in the air of that modest room in Capernaum.
Thank you.
So, Marco, can I ask you to change the slides? So Jesus was very clear, right, saying that the family is who help us as a tool to progress, right? That we want to get. How can we get and help others if we're not able to help our family? So in this, it was very clear, the part of charity and love. What I want to try to do is, what else we have there that the Spiritism in the Gospel according to Spiritism, the Spirit's book, brings to us. So let's take a look on this part of the parable. Our closest family members are most often the hammer and saw we can use to build a living and sublime temple by which heaven will manifest in our soul. So we have a lot of chapters in the gospel that talks about family or family members, and we know that when we incarnate, when we are still in the spiritual world, how we connect with those spirits, that is our spiritual family, are those spirits that we have some synergy, some sympathy and similar inclinations, right? That we get together, like friends. We have our friends that we, it's so close. They think just like us. They have the same values that we have, right? They are not part of our families. We just select them to be part of our lives. That is the same thing in the spiritual world. We are together with those spirits that we have some sympathy, and that happens through incarnations. The multiple incarnations that we go for those spirits, and we just love each other because of everything that we went through together. Like our friends from the high school are those friends, at least for me, are those that I love the most, because they know how who I was when I was a kid without any mask. Of course, we always have some masks that we put in different situations, but they grow up with us. They made part of my, at least for me, they made part of my my growth as a person. So we have those family members that are very close and we love it so much. But we also have those that came, you don't understand. It's completely different from the rest of the family. What is that, right? Why, if we are all get with people there's sympathy with it, why we get those other members in our family. And then we have the answer as well in the gospel. It says God allows such incarnations, of antipathic or foreign spirits with families with dual objectives of serving as a trial for some and means of advancement for others. So the first part, part there, the trials that we go through with those people, it's probably something that we did to them, right? Something that we have to go through because we need to fix something in ourselves. And that person would help us with that. That spirit is the tool that we're going to use to progress ourselves. If we do that with love, with charity toward that person, right? That's what we need to do. And then we have the second part, the advancement of others, right? So how we are helping others, right? Through our examples. When we have a spirit that need to go through some improvements, some evolving in he or herself, the spirit, it's through the good examples that he or she the spirit can grow as well, right? And it's through example. So we God allows that spirit to come with us and learn from us. So we need again to be good to that person, good to that spirit, to help that spirit to grow as well. So it's part of our growth as doing charity for that person, for that spirit, and it's part for the spirit as well to grow in seeing that good examples. I think that everybody would agree that when we see something good, we just follow that because we think, that's cool. I think that I used to say that it's easy to get used to the good things, right? So it's I don't know, for me, when we came from Brazil to Canada, it was easy to get used with the safety that we have here, that we go out and we walk on the streets without worrying about anything. It was easy. In 1 week, was totally acclimated to that. So I think that is what we do to those spirits as well. We giving them love, we giving them the understanding of charity, all of that spirit will be able to grow. So God give us the opportunity to help someone else. So it's through our family that we have the first opportunity to do charity, right? Then we can go to the next parable, that is the wise prince. Do you want to read it again, Jacqueline? Thank you.
Which one? The wise prince?
Yes.
Okay. The disciples were discussing the most appropriate way to act before the Almighty when the kind-hearted master told the following tale. There was once a king who ruled over the vast realm, wanting to broaden his sons' minds in order to bestow a worth inheritance on them. He took them on one of his huge domains, lush, green, and abundant valley, and distracted each one of them with a particular plantation, which they were to care for and cultivate with diligent work. Their father wanted them to have the growth of understanding, love, and wisdom, which they could attain only through education and work. And since he was to give them transitory material, he set an amount of time for their construction that would be vital for their important task later on. He did this because the valley was subject to change, and the time would come when a devastating storm would visit the region, and only those who had built a sturdy shelter would be safe. Now, as soon as the king left, his young sons, along with the many clans accompanying them, lasered around for a long period of time, seduced by the beauty of the sun-drenched plains. When they did get up to work, they indulged in a long discussion on the laws of solidarity, justice, and defense, with each of them demanded special deference from the others. Almost no one was concerned about enforcing the rules and regulations that had been established by the central government. Concerned about their personal comfort, most of the princes and their cronies were meticulous in finding subtle ways to invade, without causing a scandal, the principle to which they had sworn to obey and respect, trying to deceive their magnanimous father through mere words of praise instead of honoring him with beneficial work. They restricted themselves to complex disputes regarding the king's personal issues. They wasted years on end arguing about his personal appearance. Some of them insisted that his face was white as a lily, while others insisted that it was tan, like that of many slaves from Sidon. Many said that he had a gigantic body, and a lot of them insisted that he was a star-crowned angel. Whilst the verbal confrontation increased in number, time slowly ticked away and endlessly reproducing, revenging, insect invaded the land, whipping out the seizable part of their invaluable resources. Pollutants came down from nearby mountains ranges and turned the area into wastelands. Meanwhile, completely distracted from their basic obligation, the thoughtless princes were constantly ensnared in foolish quarrels. However, there was one well-informed son who took note of his father's decrees, and above to uphold them. He never forgot the king's advice, and whenever possible, he would offer it to his closest friend. He spent many hours to which he was entitled by law to use for rest, building and sturdy shelter that would assure him peace of mind in the future, and showing beauty and happiness around the plantation that his father had loaned him. And so, when the renewing and violent storm finally appeared, the wise prince, who had loved the king and had zealously and devotedly served him by spreading his liberating lessons out of pure fraternity, and by fulfilling his fair and kind will through the daily work by means of the constructive affliction of his soul and the sweat of his brow, was naturally sheltered in a sanctuary of peace and safety that his squabbling brothers were unable to find. A gentle silence hung over the simple room. After a few minutes, the master set his clear eyes off the small group and concluded, "Those who spend too much time analyzing things without demonstrating the spirit of service can easily become addicted to talking too much, but none will feel remorse for having thought the good and for having worked with their own hands in the name of the Heavenly Father, of the blessed pathway of life."
Yeah, so this parable tells us about. Thank you, Jacqueline. This parable tells about the need of work and what kind of work that means, right? if we think about who is the king and who is the princess that we have today, the king is God, right? It's God asking us to do better for the kingdom that He have for us, right? And if we take the earth as the kingdom, it's our work to make it better, right? So I choose a part of this parable that says the Father wants them to have the crown of understanding, love, and wisdom, which they could attain only through education and work. So what means that education? What means that work, right? So what for us, we're here incarnated. What do we need to do, right? And then if we go to the gospel, and this, I think it's better if you use the mouse and touch it there. My mouse is there. Yeah. Oh, right there. Yeah. So always in the gospel tell us, all spirits love one another. This is the first teaching. Educate yourself. This is the second. So we educate ourselves. Really means educate ourselves from the spiritual teachings that we have today, right? All of them, and taking that opportunity to learn more about the Jesus teachings and all the spiritual teachings that we have today. And regard the labor, it says, without labor, humans would remain in intellectual infancy. Thus, they must own their food, safety, and well-being to their own labor and activity. So, the work that we need to do here, we need to work, right? We are in a material world. We have all the laws, and we have the opportunity to improve. Thank you. And God give us every single tool for us to through that work we evolve ourselves. So we need that. The work is important, right? We were reading in the studies on Wednesday about the gospel, about Jesus told to a rich guy that was doing everything right. Give everything that you get, sell everything that you have, and give to the poor. Give to the poor. Yes, it's important, but we need to survive as well, right? We need to have to ourselves to be able to give to others as well. So we need to work to get all the material things, like the food that we need to our survive. But we need to remember as well that the work is also important to the earth evolve. It's not the spiritual world is not a cup of the earth. It's the earth that is a cup of the spiritual world. So as we are here, we need to make this earth better for the next generation, for the next spirits that will incarnate here. So it's our job to, from what we learn from the spiritual world, we have those special spirits that come to give more science, give more intellectual teachings for us, that the earth can evolve as well, and get better and better every single day. All right. So this progress, this work allows us to help the earth to progress. Then we can think about what is those that is limited to work, that have any mental or physical will, and that is the work as well. They are part of the God's word, the God's will for our earth, and they have a place in that work as well. Okay, so whatever we are doing according to God's plans. We are here to follow the directions of Him. Okay. And one thing that I want to go back on the previous parable, it's regarding the animals, right? In that parable, it says the bird has to build a nest, but nothing else is expected of it. The sheep provides wool to the shepherd, but no one expects to expects a ready-made coat from them. So even the animals, if we go to the Spirit's book in the question 677, it gives us an answer why the animals are here, why God created the animals for us, right? And that is also tools. They have their they work, not the same type of work that we have, but that they have their work according to God's plan to the earth to evolve. So they are here to help us as well. Okay? And that's about work. Let's go to the next one. Do you want to read again? I'm gonna do it. Okay. This one is the sincere revolutionary. Let's see. During discussion on domestic matters, Judas has been speaking enthusiastically about irregularities in the governance of the people and the likelihood of an uprising in Jerusalem, when the Lord very calmly added his comments. A king in ancient times was regarded by the people of his realm as being so cruel that head prophets of the kingdom was called upon to lead widespread rebellion to try to deter him. At first, the prophet did not believe the people's accusation, but everyone was adamant. The king has a heart of stone and is an evil lord because he persecutes, seizes, and beats his subjects all over the kingdoms. They complain in desperation. Thus it was the trusting prophet likewise become enraged and accept the idea of a revolution being the only remedy to the situation. So he made plans in private with a few hungry, resolute, and courageous companions. So just a comment here. If we remember, the Jewish people was trying to get to Jerusalem, right, as the promised place for them, and they want to have that space for them, right? And all the prophets and the king of the Jews was trying to get there. So when Jesus came, some prophets was trying to really start a revolution and think that Jesus would drive them to that piece of land, right? So many times Jesus was trying to, and you see there's in many different parts of the gospel that Jesus was saying, no, it's not for revolution that we will get where we want, right? And Jesus was not even talking about a piece of land in earth as his kingdom, as the place that the Jewish people should go, right? So just a parenthesis there. Thus, it was a trusting. Oh, I already saw that. In the company of the sublime message, the prophet accused the king, alleging what he knew by hearsay and beseeching heaven's approval of the plan for the renewed revolt. The messenger, note he sincerely listened to him patiently, and he then said, "In the name of the Supreme Lord, the plan will be approved under one circumstance. You must live with the kingdom for 100 days in his palace as a humble and loyal servant. At the end of this time, if your mind is still set on the same intent, you can overthrow the throne with our support." The honest leader accepted the proposal and began to fulfill the terms. Humble and sincere, he went to the royal abode, where there were always cleaning positions available, and took the job of unknown servant. But as soon as he began serving the king, he noticed that the king never had the time for the smallest need having to do with the pleasures of life. From the moment he got up in the morning, he was surrounded by impertinent advisors and ministers. He was tormented by hundreds of complaints by the hour. In his role as father, he was deprived of his children's affection. In his role as a husband, he lived far from his wife. In addition, he often suffered ill health because he had to attend to a lot of banquets and sermons where he was forced to listen to all kinds of lies coming from the mouths of flattering and ungrateful subjectives. So that he continued serving that king, and here it says in the end, by the end of the time period agreed upon, the prophet had undergone a dramatic transformation and returned to the mount in the over to honor his promise. When the angel appeared to him as he was praying, he implored him to have mercy on the king, for whom he now felt a sincere sense of compassion. So instead of trying to get to the throne, he was praying and asking that angel to help that king. So he was completely changed. And it continues and say, it's so, and so the rebellion gave way to understanding and hard work. Judah was disappointed and seemed to be rehearsing some kind of irreverent comment, but the divine master spoke first, saying incisively, revolution is always the tragic error of those who wish to usurp the scepter of government. When every servant understands the responsibilities and plan of life, there is no disputation towards rebelliousness or time to insubordination. So these parables tell us a little bit about the love our enemies, right? At that time, they was looking to the king and trying to saying that everything that the king was doing was wrong, and it was against them because the king was not seen, but they didn't know exactly what the king was going through, right? So many times when we see our enemy, we think, this person is not doing this thing right. I should take over and do whatever he or she is doing, and that is the moment that we need to stop and think what this person really is going through, right? All of us have different situations in our homes, and we have hard time. All of us are here because we're not perfect, right? All of us, we are here to learn something. So the life will not be easy. It will not be easy. Nobody can promise any one of us that the life that you're gonna have on earth will be just perfect. You'll be happy and nothing bad will happen. No, it will happen, because that's the way that we need to learn, right? We are here to learn from this. What do we need? But we cannot accept as well. It's fine. That's part of life. No, we need to learn how to overcome that, right? So and we're gonna do that for love and for charity. So, if we take a yeah, I did. I did. No, I think I passed it. Yeah, I'll go to that next. So, if you look to this part, when the angel appeared to him, and he was praying to implore him to have mercy on the king, from whom he now felt a sincere of compassion. So if we put ourselves, this is what I'm saying, right? If we put ourselves in the other shoes, we're gonna start to praying for that person, that person go through something better. And then the gospel tells us those who are so before I go there, if you love our enemy, the gospel brings us how to do that. Because it's not expecting us that we love the way that we understand love, right? The gospel is not expect that we become the best friend of that person, that we not have that sympathy, that we bring to our home, that person that we don't have too much affinities, right? But it gives us a good understanding of love towards our enemy is, and it says that it means forgiving unconditionally. That we continue, that person is not perfect as we are not. He needs to go through that, and we need to forgive that person as many times as we have to. Right? It means not setting up any obstacles to reconciliation. So, if that person wants to apologize and become friend, it's our duty to let that happen, right? It means wishing the good for them instead of wishing them evil. So we need to pray for that person. We need to wish that everything that he or she we're gonna do is the good thing, not thinking, oh, that person will do this now, because we are emanating that bad thoughts into that person, and that really will capture that, right? It means rejoice instead of despairing for the good that reaches them. It means extend to them helping hand in case of necessity. It's charity with towards our enemies. It means repaying their evil with good and everything with no intention of humiliating them. So we need to help them without humiliating them, right? Doing that for real love, for real wish that that person get better, right? And we have when I brought that, I was thinking about to talk about the subordinates, right? We many times we are. I don't think we have any politicians here, so we are always in the days of today. We always talking about the prime minister, the president, all the politicians. They are working and doing their work in policy, in politics, and they have their responsibility. But we, as people, we have ours as well, right? So the gospel brings us. For those who are subordinate, on the other hand, understand the duties of their position and are scrupulous in consistently fulfilling them. So, what I want to bring here is that those guys are having their very hard trial to go through, and sometimes it's a trial, sometimes it's a mission, right? We have great politicians that came and really change the way that we do things, really change some countries, and Nelson Mandela was one of them, right? And if we take him as example, how he did that, right? He was humble, he was willing to do the best for his country and for his people. So we need to help those guys. But the ones that is not that good, they're not doing what they're supposed to do, being in that position. We cannot, we shouldn't throw, how can I say, throw stones to those, right? With our words, with our thinking. We need to really pray for them that they can get what his mission is there, and I really try to do the best. Of course, it's the same thing that we're talking about work, and we cannot just sit back and say, okay, it's not my thing, and just continue doing live my life without considering that. No, we need to find our position on how to help our own country, our world to progress, but with love. Okay. I think so let's talk about the wise minister. I will not read. I think that we don't have time for that. But basically, this parable, it talks about a king that was having problems in his kingdom, and there is a lot of rebellions start, and he choose a monster to be the first minister there, first to be the judge. Then it didn't work. He asked a teacher to take the position. Didn't work as well. Then he asked the priest. Not work at all. The physician, then a general. None of them worked. The only one that worked was the wise minister. And if I can combine that to what we try to do, this is that all of them put first the first one, he was judging people, right? He created laws to make those that was trying to start a rebellion to have problems with the law, and they can put it in prisons, and just trying to stop that. The teacher as well, he was talking to trying to convince everybody that what the king was doing was right, blah blah blah. So it was talking, not really doing anything. That's what we do sometimes, right? The priest was trying to say, okay, you guys that is doing the revolution, you guys are not good people. The good ones are those that is in our side. Don't we do that every day, right? My best friends are the best people. The others are the others, right? We do that in our lives. The physician was trying to say that the other people was the revolutionary people was sick, was mental crazy, and that's what I do. That person, he's crazy. We don't talk to them because they are just crazy. The general start to in a very brutal way to kill those people, right? How many times we don't kill, but in our thoughts I wish that person would die, right? So we're not killing, but kind of. And the wise man is what he did. He talked with those people, understand their needs, understand what the people, the poor people was in need, and help them to go there. So that's what we should do, right? That's what we need to do all the time. Just try to understand what the needs of the people around us have, and how we can help us. So in the question 918, it says, those possessing the sentiment of charity and love for their neighbor do good for its own sake, without hope of rewards, and they sacrifice their self-interest for justice sake. So we should do that, all the charity and love, because we understand that is the best way, right? And not trying to justify through judging and saying that other people are crazy, but just do it. Just do it for love, right? So all of this in this book, everything that you read here happens in the house of Peter, right? It was, we can say it was the first gospel at home. So I thought it would be good to close the lecture today talking about the gospel at home. This is something that we always have, but Chico Xavier was oriented by many spirits to multiply it to other people, right? So it's a very simple way that we take all the teachings that we have here to our home, and we should do it with our family. If we go to the next slide, please. So why we do that? It's improve the spiritual and emotional family environment. So it's good for the entire family, right? Everyone in their house could also take a little bit from what we learn here. It creates a moment of peace and understanding. It's the time that we can talk with each other and a good vibration, and trying to help through things that we learn in the Spiritism. It reunites the family. It's like lunchtime or dinner time, right? That we put everybody together. Sunday, that we have the family all together having lunch together. That is a moment as well that you can do that. Increase the knowledge. If you go studying and reading the books, you can increase your knowledge on Spiritism or whatever you're studying about. Raise the vibrating standard of all. So it's a moment we all, in the same way that I I hope everybody here is feeling the good vibration and feeling the good energy here. That's a moment that we create that in our houses as well. Better understanding of whys and whats of our lives. You can bring discussion to from the situations that you're living in your house. Right here, we study different situations according to the spiritists, but there you have the moment to talk about your own problems or your own experience that you're having, and share that with your family. Clean the spiritual environment of all of us, so we know that depending on our thoughts, we can be in a very clean and elevated environment. Or if you're having bad thoughts, will be a lot of bad energy around us. So it's the moment that we clean everything around us and attract the presence of good spirits. We know that we always close to other spirits. So if we do that at home, if we keep our thoughts elevated at home, we are bringing to that people, spirits that want to be in the same vibration as us, right? So here I brought, it's just a way to do the gospel at home for those who never did it before. It's very important that you define a weekly day and time. And so every week, or depending on the situation, you can do every day or every 2 days, whatever you think is appropriate for your family. But choose one day, at least one day per week, and a time, and you do that at the same week and same time, because these are our spiritual friends that it's always trying to help us. They can dedicate time to be there with you, and you can commit into that time. You can plan everything around you, right? You plan all the work that you need to do outside that into that. The preference is that all family participate, but what I do if I'm the only one who want to do that, do it yourself. It doesn't matter how many people will participate with you, but if you really willing to do that, do it yourself. Is there any disincarnate spirit participate? Yes, as I was saying, we are always surrounded by spirits there. So whoever is there, they will be listening to that. And as I said, your good thoughts will bring good spirits that want to participate on that. What should I do if I receive a guest? We should invite the person to join. Right? They are sending their good spirits are with them, saying, go to this house at this time, and they just go, and by chance, they will get in the time that you're doing your gospel at home, and they will hear what they need to hear at that time. It's always good to have someone with more knowledge to drive the studies and help, but it must be an open conversation, right? Select a place to do it. Where's the best place? Can I do in the kitchen? Doesn't matter where you're gonna do. The important is everybody can be comfortable in the place, and it's a good environment for everyone that fits everyone. And use the gospel according to spiritism to start. You can open. There are some families that they just open the book in any page. Others, in my house, we follow, all the chapters. We go keep reading, and you can use additional books. So this is a very good book, because the way that I did the lecture today, I tried to use like what we do in a gospel at home, right? We could read something, and whatever caught our attention, we would discuss and try to connect what we learned on that parable into the gospel or any other book, spirit book, like the Spirit's book is another good one to try to understand what we read here. So at the day of the gospel at home, 30 minutes before, turn off computers, turn off everything. I think it's try to connect with the good vibration. The water We always say that it's good to have water at home during the gospel. That water get fluidified the same way that we have here. But it's optional. It's always good to start with a prayer and read whatever you select, and then discuss the understanding. Okay, ask everybody to participate. It's very important to. It's really important to get there. The vibration, it's also something that you can do, and the vibration is nothing else than you think or think positive things unto others. You can do vibration for your home, for everyone that is participating, family and friends, for cure of some people that is sick, all religions, works, etc. And close again with a prayer. And I think that's it. I had a quick move, but I think we don't have time anymore, so I will not do that.
All right. Thank you very much, Marcio.
Thank you guys.
Any questions, comments? Well, thank you. I will invite everyone to come this month to listen to the other lectures. I find the parables fascinating because, as we learned today, Jesus thought that we have a problem. We see, but we don't see. We hear, but we don't hear. In other words, it is often difficult in our current level of evolution to move beyond and understand things that are outside what we experience, outside what we know. So Jesus used parables to bring stories. He created these stories that were a lot more familiar to his audience, to the simple folks that he was talking to, that he was preaching. Things, ideas, or stories that they could relate to. Stories about kings, fishermen, people who work, people like them, or people that they would have heard about. But what's interesting about the parables is that everything seems familiar until the end. The end is surprisingly unconventional for what we believe would have been the right answer. So he uses the parables and this kind of surprise ending to the story to challenge us to think beyond the box. Think beyond what we believe that we know. He's telling us your perception is shaped by the world you have lived in so far. Your conclusions are only limited by the stage where you are. If you want to go to the next level, you have to start thinking differently. And that's what the parables make us do. Makes us think. Now, who first heard the prodigal son story and thought, well, that father is not fair, right? The other son was with him all the time, and so forth. So those are just examples that every parable, the first time we hear it, we either don't understand it or we strongly disagree with them. We want to challenge Jesus. Says, Jesus, you're wrong because it can't be right what you're telling us. But we read it again. We read what other people have understood. And then we start to see the wisdom. We start to see the real meaning that those parables have to us. So I do encourage you to come this month and listen to these stories. And nobody here is going to be telling you what the right answer is. Just what the challenge is around the parable.
Yeah.
You have to come up with your own understanding. You have to make it your own. And that is the real wonder and mystery of these parables. Because every one of us can do that.
Can I add one thing? If we read the parables, you can take so many different lessons. And while I was doing that, sometimes I was reading the same parable and I could come with 5 different themes to tell about that parable. It's just incredible the way that Jesus was telling everything. now that we have the knowledge from the gospel according to Spirit, you can relate to many different things. It's amazing the way that how much you can learn. So anytime that we read that parable, depending on the situation that you having going through, it can teach you something new. I really like that.
So let's prepare ourselves now. Thank you, Marcio, for the pass. I thank the folks who were on the internet for joining us this morning or beginning of afternoon, and we hope to see you again next week. Thank you.